Hey, Luke here with catsandcarp.com, and I'm going to talk to you about bait casting reels versus spinning reels. Pros and cons, when to buy this, when to buy that. We're going to cover it all. And one of the questions I hear the most is, should I get a baitcaster reel or should I get a spinning reel? Now, in my mind, the answer to that question is pretty straightforward. Bait casting reels are more expensive and they're more complicated to use. But there's a few things that bait casting reels do very well. Spinning reels are easier to use and they're generally cheaper. So I generally buy a spinning reel unless I need one of the features of a bait caster. Something that justifies that extra inconvenience and that extra expense. One of the number one things that a bait casting reel does well is that they are lighter. For all the features you get, you can get it in a lighter, smaller package with a bait caster. So let me give you an example here. This right here is the Abu Garcia Revo MGX. It's a bass fishing reel. It weighs 5 ounces. It's made from carbon fiber and super light alloys. It's like a baby bird landed in my hand. It runs about $350, okay? This reel produces 17 pounds of drag. It's about 200 yards of line. If I were to buy an equivalent spinning reel, okay, even at the same price, it's going to weigh about twice to 3 times as much, okay? So light, so small. Having a super light reel, a super light rod can be a real advantage if you're going to be on the water all day long, casting and casting and casting and casting. And a bait caster will be so much lighter than a spinning reel. Probably anywhere from 30 to 50% the weight. It's a big difference. But it comes with a big difference in price tag. Another thing that bait casters do really well is they have greater line capacity. So let me show you this right here. This is a Penn Senator 9/0. And I'm not even 100% sure how much line's on here. This is a 100-pound mono filament. And I think it's somewhere around 400 yards of line, maybe 500. I'm not 100% sure. But I use this reel for shark fishing off the beach. What we do is we put our baits in a kayak and leave our rods on the shore, and we kayak 200-300 yards out into the ocean and drop our baits off. So you need loads and loads of line because you're fishing at these extreme long distances. They don't make spinning reels that can carry this much line. They just don't. So if you're doing blue water fishing, you're doing fishing where you need a lot of line capacity, bait casters, they do it really well. Another thing about bait casters is that you can get a lot of drag and a lot of strength in a very small package. So let me give you an example here. Here's another Abu Garcia reel. This is the Abu Garcia Revo Inshore. This is a discontinued model. I think it's 6 years old. This reel will generate 28 pounds of drag. That is a massive amount of drag. I caught a 53-pound flathead on this. I've caught small blacktip sharks on this reel. It is incredibly powerful for being very small and very light. To put it in comparison, this big behemoth of a beast, this Penn Pursuit 2 8000, this thing only generates, I believe, 24 pounds of drag. So this little guy right here is stronger than this big boy right here. Another thing you get with bait casters is distance control. So what I mean by that is when you cast a bait caster, you depress this little lever right here. That puts it into freeze spool where the line can just play out. You cast, and then you rest your thumb on this spool, and that's the brake. This gives you a lot of control, and you can do it gradually too. You can slow the lure down and then plunk it right where you need. Once again, that's an ideal feature for serious bass fishermen. So if you're in a boat bass fishing, you sit in the middle of the lake and you cast towards the shore. And if you cast too far, your lure goes into the bushes and into the trees, and you've got a $5 to $20 lure stuck in the trees that you got to go retrieve, and it's a big pain in the butt. So being able to stop your lure before it goes too far is really important, because you're trying to get as close to the shore as you can without putting your lure in the bushes. So the question becomes, is the extra money for a bait caster worth it? Are you going to be casting so much that arm fatigue is a big issue? Are you going to be casting in situations where distance control is really important? Ask yourself, do you need to pay for that extra drag? Do you need to pay for that extra line capacity? Is that something worth spending more money on? Another issue with bait casters is that they're a little bit quirky. They're a little hard to use. They can be inconvenient sometimes. Spinning reels are a lot simpler. Take, for instance, whether you want a left-handed or right-handed reel. With spinning reels, there's this little knob on the side. You unscrew it, you take the handle off, put it on the other side, and then simply screw that bolt back in on the opposite side, and suddenly your right-handed reel has become left-handed. Super easy. Doesn't require any tools, takes seconds, and you can switch from left-handed to right-handed on spinning reels. Bait casters don't do that. You have to buy either a right-handed or left-handed reels, and lots of models don't sell left-handed reels. And this is obnoxious. As a lefty, I find this incredibly annoying. The other thing that you might find interesting is left-handed and right-handed mean different things depending on whether you have a bait caster or not. So, for instance, this is a right-handed spinning reel, and this is a right-handed bait caster. Notice that the handle are on different sides, okay? On spinning reels, right-handed means that you hold the rod in your right hand. With bait casters, right-handed means you reel with the right hand, okay? It's weird. Another quirk with bait casters is that they have brake systems. When you cast a bait caster, sometimes the spool turns faster than the lure flies through the air. And so the lure isn't pulling line fast enough, and the line gets backed up at a traffic jam on your reel, and that gets snarled up and turns into a big bird's nest. It's called backlashing. And so in order to prevent backlashing, we have these sophisticated braking systems that ever so slightly slow the spool down so that it doesn't give off more line than is necessary. And you can spend hundreds of dollars on very fancy reels with very fancy brake systems. Or you can just practice and get used to using your thumb as the brake. And then you don't need any brake system at all. And that's what I prefer to do. I turn off my brake systems, and I don't use them, and I just use my thumb when I'm casting. Now, one trick to avoiding backlashes is when you're casting, don't hold the reel up and down. Turn the reel sideways like this, and so when you cast, you're casting with the reel oriented sideways, and it reduces backlashing a lot. Then what you do is, as the line goes out, your thumb is just barely grazing the spool as the spool spins over the reel. The other thing is you want to put the brakes on before your lure hits the water. So as your lure is just about to get to where it wants to go and it's petering out and it's going down, stop the brakes. If you just let your lure go and hit the water without braking, you'll get backlash. But you can see this is a problem. If you take newbies out fishing, don't let them use your bait caster. It will be so snarled up, it'll be a disaster. Okay, also I'm going to show you how you hold a bait caster versus a spinning reel. So check it out. I've got a right-handed bait caster and a right-handed spinning reel. Okay, and this is how you hold them. You hold the bait caster with the reel up and the eyelets up. With a spinning reel, the eyelets in the reel are down. Okay, so up, down, Baitcaster's up, spinning reel's down. Casting is also weird. So with the baitcaster, you go and you hold the rod, a right-handed person holds the rod in their right hand, you go and you cast, and then you reel. Okay, pretty straightforward. With a baitcaster, on a right-handed person, you hold the rod in your right hand, you cast, and then you switch hands and you reel right-handed. Okay, so everything's being done with your right hand. You switch hands. I like to buy left-handed baitcasters because then I'll just cast them right-handed and then reel them left-handed, like I would with a spinning reel. It's just what I'm used to, and it just feels more natural. But as you can see, I've got both. I've got right-handed reels. I've got left-handed reels. I can swing both ways. Okay, so let me also show you the difference between a bait casting rod and a spinning rod. Bait casting rods have this trigger. Not always, but if you see the trigger, it's definitely a baitcaster rod. You won't see this trigger on a spinning rod. Additionally, the eyelets on a baitcaster are smaller, especially the butt ring, the very first ring on the rod. The rod on your left is a spinning rod and has a huge, like a 30-40 millimeter butt ring. The baitcaster has a tiny little one. Another feature of baitcasters that some fishermen really love is the line clicker. There's a switch on the side of some baitcasters that are designed for bait fishing, and it's right here. Okay? When a fish grabs your line, it makes that sweet noise and lets your line play out. This is perfect for bait fishing. You got your rod sitting in a rod holder, maybe it's nighttime, and you're sitting there listening to the crickets and the cicadas, and all of a sudden you hear, and wham, you're off to the races, fish on. All you have to do is flip that switch, and then the line clicker's off and you're fighting the fish. So it's like a bite alarm. It also allows the fish to take line instead of pulling your rod into the water. So it's a great little feature. You can get that same feature with spinning reels. This is called a bite and run reel. It's got a drag system on the top, a drag system on the bottom, and this clutch that switches between the two. Okay, when the drag's up, you're engaging the fighting drag. When it's down, you're engaging the resting drag. And you notice it makes a similar noise, that little clicking sound, right? And so you put your rod in the rod holder, you flip the switch down, the fish starts stripping line, you hear that clicking sound, you run over and either turn the handle or flip the switch, it engages the fighting drag, you're off to the races. Whether you use line clickers or bite and run reels, both spinning reels and baitcasters have something for you. Let me kind of sum this all up for you. If you're just getting into fishing, I would generally recommend a spinning reel. It's easier to use, there's less to learn, and you get more bang for your buck. If you're in a situation where you need an ultralight reel, you need to control your distance, you need lots of line capacity, then by all means go and spend the extra money, get a baitcaster. You can get a really compact, high quality reel that's super light and very fun to use once you learn how to use it. If you're in a situation where new fishermen are going to be using your reel, you take people out fishing, you have lots of kids, you want a reel that can switch from left-handed to right-handed. You want one that's going to be easy to use and isn't going to backlash all the time. So generally I would suggest a spinning reel for that situation. Well, hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully it taught you when to buy a baitcaster, when to buy a spinning reel, and hopefully you'll get a chance to use both. Both reels are fabulous. I enjoy my baitcasters, I enjoy my spinning reels. They both do wonderful things for me. So get out there and try them, enjoy the sport, share your knowledge with other people, and thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out some of our other great videos from the Catfishing Carp YouTube channel, including my tutorial on my 10 favorite knots, and some great videos on how to catch catfish in a variety of situations. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to click subscribe. We put out multiple videos every week.